Hello everyone, my name is Christian. Welcome back to Tekpon today. Our guest is Marin, the CEO of Omnisearch. Hello.
Hi, Christian. Pleased to be here. Thanks so much for having me.
Nice to meet you. Please tell us what Omnisearch does.
Right. So Omnisearch, we like to think of ourselves as building what we say is the future of search technology. And that is essentially to make every single type of content just as easily searchable as textual content. So be that images, documents, presentations, videos, audios, literally anything that comes to mind in terms of content, we make it just as easy to find any kind of information, be that textual or visual information, inside those as it is to find it inside text.
So I guess that's the biggest problem that you solve, helping people find all the content.
Yeah. I think this actually, when you think about the origin and the inspiration for the whole thing, it was when I was working at Amazon and just had a ton of trouble navigating through, hours and hours of video training content. So that to me and my co-founder seemed like a really worthwhile problem to solve and to make available to businesses.
And how does it work? What are the steps? I don't know.
So the steps are basically, there's actually fairly few steps, I would say, because all of the content extraction is essentially done on our end without any need for any kind of metadata or any additional uploads or editing on the part of the customer. So you just input the data, the documents, the files, whatever. You just input it into Omnisearch, and all the extraction and all the indexing is going to be done on our end, and right off the bat you'll be able to perform search queries on the content that you actually index. And you can either use it as a standalone product in a web dashboard if you're using it for your own files or companies using it internally, or you can use the API to integrate it into your own site and to power the search functionality that you have there.
Very, very interesting. But how does it work more technically? So let's say
yes, of course.
So technically, upload a video and
not to bore your non-technical listeners with all the nitty-gritty technical details.
Yes.
But off the top of my head, what I can say is that we'll either map the materials, the content, to textual representations, as is the case, for instance, in OCRing images or documents or performing speech to text, or we'll use vector-based methods that are some of the more new and advanced ones, using all the latest and greatest advances in AI to index the visual content. And so this was actually released fairly recently, only a couple of days ago, actually. So those two kind of interplay together. So it's either the more exact textual representations or the more, I would say, fuzzy visual representations that sort of fit very nicely together and interplay very nicely together.
Yeah, I'm not a technical person, but I was curious to know how it works. Yeah, thank you so much. What is the pricing for your product?
Right, so the pricing, we basically have three main tiers. First of all, let me dwell a little bit on the elements of pricing. So the way that we usually price is you have a monthly subscription that gives you a certain amount of materials, certain amount of content that you can process on a monthly basis. And so this could be 10 or 20 or whatever, amounts of hours of audio, video, similar with images and similar with documents. If you go over that subscription, and these will generally be from $50 to $200 a month if we're talking about our SMB targeted offerings. If we're going enterprise, then it's completely custom.
Yes.
Because there will be a lot more integration, a lot more support, and a lot more other elements involved. Then if you go over this subscription, then we also enable you to, as a one-off payment, to buy more quota, to buy a bigger quota. So that this is very useful when you're initially processing your entire database of content. Then you just pay something once, and then you revert back to your original subscription so that it's more, financially efficient for you.
I understand. And what I wanted to ask you, what are your integrations? You mentioned them, main ones. Let's see.
Right. Okay. So one of I'll actually start off with what our first really cool thing was that we built after we had launched the MVP of the product, and this was somewhere mid last year. So the coolest thing that we had built, that we then started building at that point, was an integration with a platform called Thinkific, which you can imagine as being like Shopify for online courses. And so we were among the first application developers to launch an offering on there. And this was really amazing for us because we were targeting the education market, because audio and video search is not really something that anyone else gives you, or that very few other vendors give you.
Yes.
So this integration really got the ball rolling. We got our initial paying customers, initial traction through that channel, and it's been a huge help to us since. So in terms of the other integrations, in terms of getting the content into Omnisearch, we're currently developing integrations for Google Drive and other such main connectors that companies use for either communication or data storage or anything of that sort. But by and large, what we do is we provide you an API, and that API can be used using very simple scripts. It can be used to either upload and ingest data into Omnisearch, or to perform queries so that you can then integrate that into your own sites and your own applications.
That's great. Regarding what you said, I saw some people on LinkedIn advising that startups, their MVPs, should try launching on marketplaces like Shopify Marketplace. And as you mentioned, you get a lot of traction there, especially if you're the first one. So a great strategy.
Yeah, I think so. It's a fairly, I would say, underrated strategy, because it does have its drawbacks, because you still need to do the development up front, and you're still in charge basically of acquiring your own customers. You can't get those out of the box. You still need to do your own sales and marketing, but still, it's a really, really great way to piggyback off of a platform with a lot of existing traction. I've known a lot of startup friends who were able to achieve significant traction through those channels.
I think Shopify is the biggest one, or one of the biggest ones, but there are sure other small ones, and you can start there.
It depends though whether there's going to be a lot of really prominent platforms that don't give you a developer API. And so if that's the case, then you got to go talk directly to them and try to get the integration rolling. But if you do have an open API that you can develop against, that's amazing.
Okay. And what's your view on competition? I guess you don't have any competitors right now, but
I would say we don't have any like one-to-one competitors, like straight, head-on competitors. But we do always look at other companies in the search space like Algolia or Elastic or such pseudo competitors, I'd say, that are predominantly focused on text search. They're incredibly good at that. They've been around for a long time. They do a hell of a job. But I don't think that we really have something that would be a true competitor head on.
Okay. When did you start the company?
We started it so officially in April 2021, informally couple of months before when we started hacking on that.
And the idea came from your frustration at Amazon?
Yeah, exactly. That was the spark that lit it.
And have you raised any funds?
Yeah, we've raised $450,000 in pre-seed last year.
Super, very, very nice. And how big is your team right now?
So we have 7 people. Yeah, and this consists of myself and my co-founder Mate, who leads the technical team. And so we have 3 more engineers, 1 more business guy, and a designer working with us. So that's already a fairly strong and efficient team.
Okay. And I'd love to hear your backstory. So I saw you worked at Facebook, at Amazon. I'd love to hear...
Yeah, totally. So basically, software engineer by trade, originally from Croatia. Had a lot of work experience after college in Silicon Valley and in Canada.
Okay.
And my first foray into sort of the tech industry came as a intern at Facebook. And afterwards, I worked at a good venture-backed startup called MemSQL, or nowadays Single Store, after their rebrand. And after that, I was at Amazon, where I worked on the AWS team and on the Alexa team. And so these two, I always like to say, were both they were very different teams and very different experiences, because one was a very mature product, larger scale, phenomenal for learning distributed systems, but less fast moving. Whereas Alexa was just, we got to get this thing to market, and we got to get it before I don't know, some bigwig talks to the press. So tight deadlines, but a lot more freedom to ship. So I would say that both were extremely good in their own ways.
And do you have any advice for people that want to make this switch to being a founder?
Where would I even start? I would say that from a purely practical standpoint, I would say it's worth it to accumulate some savings if there's any way for you to do that.
Yes.
In addition, or potentially as an alternative, it's always worth, I think, having some sort of a backup option by signing up for, say, freelance platforms, so that whenever your runway gets too low, you can jump in, take some projects, and replenish that.
Okay.
Replenish the bank account. I think apart from that, it's worth, for technical founders, my piece of advice is definitely learn to do sales and marketing. Learn to do the business stuff. A lot of technical founders will just prefer to, stay heads down and code and build amazing products. But you gotta learn that. You gotta learn to talk to customers. You gotta learn to market the product. You gotta learn to do social and a whole lot of these other things.
But why wouldn't they prefer to, I don't know, get a marketing founder and focus on what they're good?
That's also, well, we are two technical founders, and this, by the way, if you listened to conventional wisdom some 6 or 7 years ago, that was like that's better. That's the configuration that you need to succeed. Everyone should be technical on the founding team. Nowadays, I think that it has swung a bit more into the other direction, where it's kind of like not really expected that you have like all the technical founders on the team. For us specifically, I'd say that it made sense because the product is very technically complex.
Yes.
So it's definitely better to have both the founders understand it deeply rather than
There's not necessarily a correct way or something like that.
Yeah.
Just
and of course, like
discussing.
if you're a solo founder also, that's one thing that we need to mention. Then it's definitely better to be a technical solo founder than a non-technical solo founder, because if you go and outsource all the development to some outside agency, you're probably setting yourself up for a world of pain later down the road.
Yeah. Okay. What's your favorite software?
My favorite software? Wow, that's a pretty good question. Well, when I was coding more, I used to use Emacs a lot.
Okay, I don't know
So
that.
that's my favorite text editor. I got so used to it, and it was so incredibly powerful that I really, really loved it. I mean, I find that Excel and other such spreadsheet software that's really, really useful, and you always end up having to master that. And it is really powerful. So I think those are really good ones.
And any other software that you use at your company or that you'd recommend to people? I don't know, a CRM?
We use a lot of Slack. We use a lot of Google products, from Workspace to Calendar to Meet to whatever. Slack has in particular been really good for us. I remember that I probably first tried it out in 2015, and I was a bit of a skeptic early on, but now it has sort of grown on me, and we all at the company love using it. What else, actually? I mean, there's a lot of really good marketing and sales automation tools. There's something called Woodpecker for sending automated email campaigns and so forth. So these are really, really good pieces of software. The Canva.
Yeah, okay.
Canva's quick. Figma I can't use because I'm not a real designer, but Canva for building a really quick presentation, or like a resume if you need, or some sort of video. It's really, really easy to use.
Okay. And what's your main vision with the product? How do you see it? What's your end goal?
I want every significant site in the world using Omnisearch.
Okay.
To power their search functionality. I think that's the dream.
Okay.
take over the world little by little. No, I'm kidding. No, of course not. I think that from a more tactical standpoint, we'll be doubling down on our education niche that we had so much good success in, and then also expanding into other ones, like for instance media or e-commerce and such things where search is really, really relevant.
Awesome. And is there anything else that you want to tell us today on the podcast?
Well, nothing really comes to mind off the top of my head, but the only piece of sage advice I can tell you is, just persevere. I think that in a startup founder, there will be so many downturns, so many times when things are not looking good, when you can't raise money, or customers screw you over, or something like that. So it's just important to keep on going, keep on pushing, and something good will come out of that.
Is this your first startup?
No, second one.
Ah, super. Okay, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for helping the community, and I wish that your main goal happens and you get to help companies.
Yeah, thank you, Christian.